Hi, I'm Bob Canote, and on this episode of the Camp Chaos Chronicles, Tony and I are going to show you how to replace the cylinder head in a Jaguar AJ6 4.0. And if you own one of these cars, this is information you may need later. Trust me. Dang it. Now, why do I think that you might be able to use this information later? I've owned 3 of these cars, a 90, a 92, and a 94. In addition to that, the engine we're working on right now for the Champ Car, all 4 of them have needed head gaskets. And the reason being, 2 of them just had hellacious oil leaks because of the failure of the gasket around an oil passage. The others actually had a failure of the gasket between cylinders, and you got coolant and compression leaks. So this is really, really common on this car. The good news is it's really a pretty easy cylinder head gasket replacement to do. And if you just look at the information that we've got in the first part of this 2-part series, you'll get some insight as to how to get the head off. And this one, we're going to show you how to put it back on again. I hope you find it useful. Well, I got my partner in crime here, Tony, out here today, and we're going to put this head back on and get this thing running again. I would say 3 hours. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have it running. We usually hit our targets, but within 5 minutes or so. But at any rate, we got everything all cleaned up. We've got the new cylinder head gasket on here. Interesting thing about the XJ40, it's got a cylinder head issue besides the ones that you saw where it had leakage between all of the cylinders except for 2. And the other thing that they have as far as the cylinder head gasket is concerned is this little seal right here. The problem is that on the original cylinder head gaskets, this is just a hole. On the revised cylinder head gasket, we've got this rubber seal here. And the interesting thing is, while I thought that this was an original, it's got the same revised seal. So the cylinder head has been off at one point, which means that there's another issue here that we need to consider, and that is the stretch bolts. Now, typically, stretch bolts used once, and they're thrown away. Yep. However, right here, Tech Bulletin number 12-62, amended 298. This basically said, it is now Jaguar Cars policy that the cylinder head bolts of AJ6 and AJ16 engines should be reused twice in service during repair operations involving removal of the cylinder head. And then you stamp it on the head in order to indicate that these have been reused. So the question is, how many times have these been reused? They're supposed to have punch marks on the head to indicate, and I don't see anything on these. So it's possible that these have only been used once. Yep. Or it could be that the guy that did the cylinder head replacement didn't mark them. But it says, the bulletin says we can reuse these twice. In other words, they've been used 3 times total. Okay? So the question is, are we going to use this brand new box of stretch bolts at about 135 bucks delivered, or are we going to take a chance on these?
I think we need to take a chance on those.
I think so too. Particularly since this engine is basically going to be used for getting the engine management system sorted out and driver's training and that sort of thing, and the race engine will be built over the course of the winter, spring, that sort of thing. So another thing that I'd like to point out is that when you get your cylinder head gasket, the brand spanking new one, inspect it for damage. This right here is the way this came to me. Now you see a little bit of silicone right up there. That's because I got the crazy notion that I was going to use this with a little RTV in it.
Yeah.
But the good news there is that I actually found another cylinder head gasket the same time I ordered this one. Just the head gasket, not the head gasket set, for 35 bucks. And there it is right there. So, and it looks like it's the same gasket. But,
Oh, yeah.
and the thing is, I looked for that piece in the bag so I could sandwich it on there with a little RTV, which is what you do.
Yeah.
And couldn't find the piece. So this actually was broken before it went in the bag at the factory.
Yeah.
We'll keep this in the reserve, take this to the track in the event we need to do that at the track. So what we've done here is got the gasket on here, and it's on the proper way, of course. What you want to do is make sure that there's no bends in it that will cause the gasket to kind of pull up away from the locating dowels here, so that when you're sliding this thing on, it slips down a little bit and then you damage the gasket. There's the dowel pins. You want to make sure that the gasket is seated on. And other than that, you really can't put this thing on wrong. Another thing that I've done is I've zip tied the sprockets and the chains in a position where they will go up easily through the cavity in the front of the head. And the exhaust manifold is pulled away from the head, so it's not going to hang up there. And we should be able to just lift this thing up and set it on the engine. I love this part of the project. So we had a little bit of controversy regarding the stretch bolts, whether you lube them or not. Tony's never actually used lubrication on stretch bolts. I actually have, only because I always have, and I've done 3 of these head gaskets and haven't had any issues as yet. The cars have always gone to the boneyard before any issues developed. So, not because of head gaskets, mind you, but so what we're going to do is we're going to reuse these. The thing you need to remember is that the cylinder head was full of oil and water at some point. And when you pull it off the head, a lot of it's still in there. And you can roll that thing around all day and there's still going to be water that's potentially going to come out and get in between the gasket and the cylinder head and the block. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this thing on and we're going to drop these bolts in and we're going to speed them down with the drill and thereby hopefully keeping the crap out.
Yep.
So the spec for torquing these, and there's a certain pattern that these are to be torqued in, 44 foot-pounds of torque and then an additional 90 degrees. So 44 foot-pounds all the way through with all the bolts, and then go through again and turn them an additional 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paint pen and mark it on one side and then turn it so that it's 90 degrees across. There's torque wrenches, some electronic torque wrenches that will actually tell you the number of degrees that you're turning it, which is an amazing thing. And actually there's a gauge that you can get that you can actually do that with, but we're beyond that. We're experts, so that's what we're doing. You can see here the marks that I've made on the cylinder head bolts. I've already got them torqued to 44 foot-pounds And so I've got all the bolt heads marked. Now it's a simple matter of turning each one of them an additional 90 degrees, and that part of the job's done. We can hook up the cams and just start sticking a few things on that we've got left to do and hit the switch. While Tony's putting the intake manifold on, I'm going to de-zip tie the sprockets and chain and start to hook that up. I'm going to also double check the camshaft timing and the tool. And the tool we use for that is this. There's a notch on the top of the cam where this fits, and these three surfaces need to fit flat on the gasket sealing surface of the head. And when you got that, you know it's done right. Boom. Okay.
You have a torch spec for this?
Well, it's 20 after 1 and we got it all together. And very few glitches. Had some issues with the timing chain tensioner that we sorted out. One thing is we forgot to put the half moon seals in when Tony put the cam cover on.
Bob forgot to tell me, so.
Well, what'd you think those two holes were for? Crankcase ventilation or what?
I wasn't even looking at it. I'm not paying attention.
So anyway, here we go. We're going to give this thing a shot. We haven't actually tried this before. Ignition on. Pump. Pump's pumping. Not seeing any leaks. Get a little juice. There we go. Red's about as good as I'm thinking cap, wires, that sort of thing.
Yep. Plug. Good plug screw.
An 85 psi oil pressure brings that. Tell you what, I've got some wire. Running fast. Okay, so this one?
Yep.
Clear.
All we're gonna do is get it dialed in.
Yep. Next thing we need to do is get the stepper motor for the idle. Get the idle sorted out. And then, you know, new plug wires, cap, whatever, you know, all the usual suspects. But I'm calling that a win. So next time we're gonna finally get this thing tuned up and running the way it should. At that point, then we can pull the engine off of the stand. I've got 3 other engines that need to get on this stand, and I have to do a lot of rewiring in order to run Morelli ignition V12s on this thing. So I'm sure Tony will just be chomping at the bit to help me out with that project.
Sure.
We'll work on it. So if you like these kinds of videos where we do this sort of stuff and you want to see more of them, like, subscribe, and we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.
Arrivederci.
You